Good morning. Welcome to our daily devotion. It is Tuesday, January 19th. Appreciate all of you that continue to watch these devotions on a regular basis. Especially appreciate those of you that share them. If I tell you many times, the more that share, the more views go out, the more people hear the good news, the gospel about Jesus Christ. So we're in Matthew chapter 6, verse 10. Morning, Roz. Where Jesus is teaching his disciples and the crowds how to pray. It's called, as you all very familiar with it, the Lord's Prayer. I grew up calling it the Our Father. Morning, Will. So we've learned already now that we can call God our Daddy. We've learned that He is holy, 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 to be totally revered. So that even though you can say Daddy, you're still to totally respect Him, totally revere Him. Morning, Paul. And then we learned that his kingdom has come down to earth. The same one that's in heaven he came down to earth so we can know who God is. Otherwise, we would never know him. Morning, Michelle. And now we're learning that it says, Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come. Your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Your will be done. God, we have to understand that God is in total control. His will always supersedes our will. So in this prayer, we're asking God to cause His will to be done. How many times have you prayed to God, asking for something, thinking you know what's best, okay? That you're asking God for something instead of asking God to answer it according to His will. This morning I've been praying for something to do with our companies, with my son's business. Been supporting me for a long time in ministry, and the business is really hurting right now, and he has to make some big decisions. And so I can pray for the business, nothing wrong with that, but I also have to pray that everything would come out according to His perfect will. That He doesn't just answer the prayers according to my will, but He answers them according to His will. That's why it says, your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. God is in total control. So let's take a look at a bunch of scriptures to talk about this. In Mark chapter 3, verses 31 through 35, it says, Then Jesus' mother and brothers arrived. Standing outside, they sent someone in to call for Jesus. Crowd was sitting around him, and they told him, Your mother and your brother and your sisters are looking for you. Who are my mother, my brothers, and my sisters? Jesus answered. Then he looked at those seated in a circle around him and said, Here are my mother and my brothers. Whoever does God's will is my brother and sister and mother. What God would be saying to you people today is those of you that are following God, that are following His will, doing His will. God, Jesus is saying, you are my brothers and my sisters. You are my family. So how do you become part of the God's family? By doing His will, by doing what God wants us to do, not what we want to do. And then in John 6:38 and 40. Says this, Jesus said, For I have come down from heaven, not to do my will, but to do the will of Him who sent me. And this is the will of Him who sent me, that I shall not use none of all that He has given me, but raise them up on the last day. So even Jesus says He came down to earth not to do His will, but to do the Lord's will. Remember when Jesus was praying in the garden, and because He knew what the death that He was going to have to face, and He was praying, He said, God, is there another way? Is there another way that we can do this rather than me having to suffer and die a terrible death? And He says, but not my will, but your will be done. Good morning, Sharon. Good morning, Doug. Good morning, Eddie. Good morning, Mary. So even Jesus was in His prayers asked according to God's will, not according to His will. In Romans 12:2, it says, do not conform any longer to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. What God is saying is when we don't follow the ways of this world, when we don't allow ourselves to get sucked up into the world, it says, as long as we're following Jesus, then we will know what his will is. We will know what his perfect will is. Then when you pray, you know what to pray for because you have a better understanding of what God's will is. But when you follow the ways of this world, you become greedy and you start praying for what you want, not what God wants. In Ephesians 5:17, God tells us this. Therefore, do not be foolish, but understand what the Lord's will is. Follow the ways of the world and you're foolish. You don't know God's will. Follow the ways of the Lord and you're wise and you'll have a better understanding of what God's will is. 1 Thessalonians 4:3 says, it is God's will that you should be sanctified, set apart, that you should avoid sexual immorality. It is God's will that we avoid sexual immorality. Verse 18, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you. God's will is that we're to give thanks no matter what happens. No matter what happens, we give thanks. That's God's will. So the more you follow Jesus, the better better chances you have of knowing what his will is. And then in Hebrews 20:21 says, may the God of peace, who through the blood of eternal covenant brought back from the dead our Lord Jesus Christ, equip you with everything good for doing his will. And may he work in us what is pleasing to him through Jesus Christ. God has equipped us. He's equipped us to know what his will is. Now, you know what that equipping is. He gave us his Spirit. His Spirit lives within us. He's equipped us to better understand what his will is. So I believe this, the more time you spend with God in prayer and doing ministry with him, the better you are at understanding what his will is for your life. Even when I pray for people that are sick, I pray for God's healing, but at the same time, I also pray that God would do his will, that his will would be done. Because otherwise, if you pray just for healing and then the person's not healed, then you start questioning whether your prayers were answered. Instead of just praying for the healing according to God's will. Big difference. And then in James 4:13 says, now listen, you who say, today or tomorrow we will go and do this or that city, spend a year there, carry on business, make money, all the things. Today we're going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and then tomorrow I'm going to do this, and then next year I'm going to do this. We all make plans. It says, why, you do not even know what will happen tomorrow. What is your life? You are a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. Instead, you ought to say, if it is the Lord's will, we will do this or do that. If it is the Lord's will, we will do this or do that. Always remember, everything is according to God's will. Finally, in 1 John, we talk about how God answers prayer. Morning, Eddie. Morning, Pat. Morning, Veronica. Morning, Stan, Maria. Morning, Paul. Your prayers in answers here in 5:4, because so many times people misunderstand Scripture when they read, ask whatever you want and the Lord will give it to you. We have to understand, who Jesus is talking to. If he was talking just to the disciples, he had a special ministry for them, and he empowered them with great power and told them, you ask and I will give it to you. But he didn't say that to the crowd. It was to a particular person. So does Jesus answer our prayers? And I've told you many times, yes, he answers all of them, but his answers are yes, no, and wait. But here's the key here in 1 John 5:14 and 15. It says, this is the confidence we have in approaching God, that if we ask anything according to his will, according to his will, he hears us. And we know that if he hears us, whatever we ask, we know that we have what we asked of him. So when you ask of something, you know that you have it if you ask according to his will. Now, the more you know God, the more you know Jesus, the more you know Scripture, the better chance you have of knowing what his will is. And so then you ask according to his will, and he answers according to his perfect will. Remember, God's ways are far above our ways, far above our ways. Who are we to question a God that created everything? So when you're praying to that God, always pray according to his will. Then you don't put God in a box. You allow him to do what he is perfect at doing. I hope this meant something to you. I hope you learned something from it. Thank you for joining us this morning. As you know, every morning we have their daily devotion at 8 o'clock. We'll continue going through Matthew. Tonight is Impact, our youth group at 7 o'clock. If this meant something to you, share it. I say all the time, the more people that share, the more the gospel gets out to people. And I know I've shared this with you many times too now, but I'll share it again. Almost at least every other day, I'm getting a friend request from somebody in Africa. The gospel is just alive. It is so alive now in Africa. And they're saying that in 20 years, 60 to 70% of new Christians will end up coming out of Africa. So God is using us to read. Somebody asked me, how did you get there? So I don't know. It wasn't me. I didn't know anybody in Africa. Somebody shared it, and that share ended up getting to Africa, and now they're sharing it with everyone there. And our gospel, our messages are being heard in Africa now. So keep sharing, okay? We're spreading the gospel. Good morning, Marcy. God bless you all. Have a great, great day, and I'll see you tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock.